After Liverpool a bit in the end, 4-1. I don't think it was a 4-1 performance. I thought Barnsley did really well, gave it Liverpool a real scare. But, you know, great goal by Florian Wirtz, made it a lot safer towards the end. But I don't think Arne Slot will be too happy with the performance. I think you'll look at some of the fringe players who came in and thought they could have done better, could have stepped up a little bit. So, yes, an important win, but I think a few of the players that came in missed the chance to step up, really, and maybe give them a selection problem for the big games coming up.
I mean, you look at that Wirtz goal, I'm just looking at the 84 minutes. So that tells you it was tight. He had to go to his bench. You know, obviously, Szoboszlai went back to right back at one point for the second half. But he had to go to his bench for Wirtz and Ekitike, who's had an injury because it was tight, because it was 2-1 and Barnsley were a threat. And we were sitting watching, saying this could go to extra time. And in the end, I agree. I think everybody, John and Stuart and commentary and Augie, have said it's 4-1's a little bit flattering for Liverpool and Barnsley. We were watching the game and said they've made as a League One side at Anfield, they've made a really good fist of this game. I mean, they really have. But in the end, it was just that little bit of quality in the final third. But I don't think we've sort of looked at Liverpool and said, from the draw at Arsenal, which was decent, to this game tonight, even though there's a lot of changes, don't say this is a side that's going to go on some sort of amazing run this year, and they're going to resurrect the season in the second half. I don't think they're playing with that kind of confidence at the moment. And I think you can feel that in the crowd. It even feels a little bit flat. I know it was Barnsley and they were expected to win, but the whole atmosphere around this team at the moment is flat, and it's like they're expecting to see what they've seen for the bulk of this season, which is, you know, has been for the most part pedestrian performances.
I'm going to show my age here. It reminds me of an old, you know, the old cars we used to have to start it with a crank. That's what it's like watching Liverpool. Every time they go to crank it, you think it's going to start and it's going to go, but it doesn't. And today was the same. I mean, there was nothing impressive about this at all.
But it's 11 unbeaten.
And he's still driving that car, the very car.
And it wasn't a draw, Stevie.
No, but come on, it's Barnsley. They're struggling. They're struggling in League One.
17th.
17th in the old third division. I mean, on paper, again, there's a chasm between these two sides, but you didn't see it on this performance. And Liverpool were at home. I mean, not impressive whatsoever. And Liverpool are just limping along.
It begs the question, doesn't it? I mean, they spent a fortune in the summer. We all sat before we watched them at the Community Shield at Wembley against Palace. We all watched them and or looked at the squad and the acquisitions and said, well, everybody's playing for second. That's how good some of these players were that they were signing from their previous clubs. And now we're in a situation with form and injuries, I suppose, particularly with Conor Bradley being the recent ones, and the lack of Mark Gay signing at the end of the August transfer window. We're in a position where, is it going to take another small fortune for them to get back to close to where they were? Or is it just a time frame where Gravenberg's back in form, McAllister's back in form, Wirtz finds his feet, you know, the back four start playing better together, maybe Kerkez will find some confidence because he really has struggled. Is that going to be the case for Arne Slot, or is he banging on the recruitment team's door saying, we need to spend again, whether it's January in the summer? I mean, that's kind of where Liverpool are, isn't it?
And you mentioned the injuries, and you mentioned Conor Bradley. I don't know if we've spoken to you about the Conor Bradley injury since we knew he'd be out for the rest of the season. How significant is that?
Well, it is. Listen, Conor Bradley, when he's been playing this season, has been no different to all the other players that have actually played for Liverpool. They've all not been at the best. But in terms of numbers, and in terms of him personally, it's a disaster. You know, for somebody so young, he seems to have been injured all the time, and to pick up such a bad injury, not even from a challenge, doesn't bode well physically. So every which way you want to look at this, from this Conor Bradley's look, whether it's from a Liverpool point of view, it's just another blow to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Liverpool point of view, it's just another blow to Liverpool.
Yeah. They absolutely didn't need to lose another player, did they, Augie?
No, I mean, the Bradley situation is a big one because, you know, who plays at right back, you know, in the game. So they get to the latter stage of the Champions League where they need somebody who can defend as well. You can't really rely on Frimpong. You know, Szoboszlai's done well there this season, but you probably need him in midfield. So, yeah, I think Liverpool are showing a few signs of strain. I think what's going to happen this month in terms of January? I think a lot depends on when Mo Salah comes back. You know, we expect Salah to come back early next week after the African Nations. And does Salah stay? Does he go? If he goes, are they going to get a fee for him? If they get a fee, will they reinvest it in the squad? They really, really need some defenders, or at least one defender. So I think a lot will depend on whether they can get some money in. I think, you know, the Salah situation remains kind of unresolved. It's kind of been in abeyance for a month while he's been in Africa, but that issue is going to come to a head next week because he's going to come back. Do they need him in the team? That's a 50-50 because they've done okay with that, in terms of results. But it's whether they can afford to let him go in January and get a fee and then reinvest it in the squad. But that'll be a big decision to let Mo Salah go before the end of January. I think it's unlikely, but they do need to get some players in.
If they don't invest in the squad in January again, and that seems just strange to be talking about, Augie, after the summer that they had, is because I think if we all agree they're not going to win the league, and they're not playing anywhere near well enough to go on some sort of run. Do you think, Augie, that their actual Champions League place next season is maybe a 50-50, somewhat in jeopardy, looking at the form from the start of the season till now?
I mean, they're fourth right now, and I think you look at the teams around them. I can't see Man United finishing above Liverpool. I can't see Chelsea doing that, and obviously I think fifth will probably be enough for Champions League anyway. So I think it'll take something pretty dramatic for Liverpool not to get in the Champions League position. Yeah, Newcastle's a shout, but I think top five is going to do it, and we don't know what's going to happen to Man City. At some point this season, I would expect the 115 charges to be resolved, and if City do get punished, I don't think they're going to be relegated. But they might have a points deduction which could take them at the top six. So overall, I think Liverpool will be okay. They've got so much firepower. I think Isak will be back at some point. So I still think Liverpool will be okay to finish top four. But I mean, talk about the summer. They spent a lot of money, but they didn't invest in the defence properly. They brought in a right back who's not really a defensive right back. So they are paying a price for not adding to their centre-back options in the summer. Obviously, the Italian lad that got injured, he was never going to be a regular anyway, 18 years old. So they missed the trick there by not getting a proper centre-half in like a Mark Guay, and they're really paying for it now.
Unless they are going to sign a bona fide top-class centre-back in the transfer window, if I'm involved, I'm saying, you know what, let's just make sure we get into the Champions League next year, and then we regroup over the summer, and then we actually sign the people or the players who would be targets for us. Because if they go out in January and just try and fill some holes and waste money, it's not going to get them anywhere. They're not winning the Premier League regardless. They're not winning the Champions League. I mean, they might, if they're lucky, they might win an FA Cup. But at the end of the day, you've got to look at the big picture. And wasting money in the January window to sign somebody who really isn't part of your future, I don't think makes any sense. Keep your powder dry, unless you're getting Gahey or you're getting somebody who you would, if you can get them now, that you would actually go for in the summer. So I would hold fire. Don't waste your money. Make sure you get it right.
I mean, they didn't sign. The Gahey situation was, they left it so late, and I have no idea why they left it as late, but they did, and it fell flat. That situation would not, the discussion around it would not have been so fervent had the two centre-backs, who are hugely experienced, hadn't played so badly. And allied to that, the both full-backs have changed and they've struggled. The Mark Gay situation is, yeah, you needed it. Joe Gomez comes in and he plays there. Konza's left, he's gone to Germany. But I don't think Arne Slot, A, was banking on Kerkez continuing his form from Bournemouth. He was going to alternate probably Bradley and Frimpong and play Frimpong, but he was not banking on Van Dijk and Konate having such a calamitous first 6 months of the season. And for that reason, that's why everybody's talking about, well, we should have signed another centre-back. Well, that's fine. It's kind of Monday morning quarterback and all that. But if you'd have said Konate and Van Dijk were going to operate the way they have, we'd have said, nah. That's going to be the strong point of their team. It's the other areas that they're going to be concerned about, which they are. Well, but definitely that has been a huge weak point down the spine of the side.
But then you add to that the middle of the park and the forward line. Exactly what you've just spoken about with the back line. You could not have figured out that the middle three, who were as good as anybody in Europe, I mean, they were close to the PSG three. That's how good they were last season. And you look at the front line. So what Craig's talking about in the back line, has gone all the way from the back all the way to the front.
One player that's been harder to criticise for Liverpool this season has been Szoboszlai.
Yep.
Although speaking of calamitous, he definitely had himself a moment today when Barnsley got their goal in this game.
You know the key?
We've all had moments.
Yeah, and the key is...
Trust me.
The key is getting away with it. That's the important thing. Because we've all made bad decisions, bad mistakes, cost goals, but if you do it at the right time and get away with it, and he's gotten away with this today, because they've ended up winning 4-1, and had Barnsley equalised with 2 minutes to go, the narrative over that mistake would be completely different. Now they're all laughing at it. Everybody's pointing the finger at him in the dressing room going, what are you doing? And they're all giggling. But that's the key. You do that and get away with it.
Yeah, obviously his stunning goal didn't hurt matters on the night either.
It's not, final game of the season and the top four's at stake and you do that, that's a different kettle of fish. It's a knockout in the Champions League and you do something like that. So get it out of your system in a game that you win. And I'm sure Arne Slot will be saying to me, I know you're the captain of Hungary, but let's not try that again.
What was your view of that mistake? How close were you to it, Mark?
It was one of those where you're thinking, what on earth are you doing there? But the guys are right. In a game like this, it doesn't actually matter overall. But it was strange. I mean, it was a midfielder playing in the defence, thinking he can get away with something stupid, and it was just a crazy thing to do. It was quite funny looking back at it, but it's one of those moments that you can put in your bloopers section at the end of the season. But like the guy said, if that was a game that really mattered and it was close, then he'd be thinking about it for the rest of his career. But he'll sleep on it tonight and forget about it tomorrow.